Hello, how are you today? Hope you're doing fine. Today I'm going to cover the basics of fundraising for your NGO. My name is Omotola and I'm so happy to have you here today. Do you want to acquire the funding you need so that your NGO can help send more out of school children back to school? Or maybe you want to help children living on the street have access to at least one decent meal and hygiene products so that they do not get sick. For you, you may want to reduce the rate of primary and secondary school dropout rate in your city, in your town, your village, or in your state. But you're frustrated because it's so hard to get people and organizations to give even small amount of money to a cause that can change and transform lives for good. They rather invest in music shows, comic shows, or the likes of Big Brother Nigeria and other non-important things. Yet, there are so many children who are suffering, living on the street, who eat out of the gutter and not able to go to school, and also are walking on very busy roads and dangerous roads. You know within you that with just a little amount of money, you can make a difference. And you go to individuals and ask, and they just keep posting you and promising but never delivering on their promises. Yet, these are the same people who are going to invest in things that do not add value but rather exploit people and children. It can be a very difficult place and you feel helpless when you know you can make a difference. Yet, because you cannot access the funding you need, people who have the money seems not to care or interested in things that makes a difference. You are at a point where you're beginning to think you are putting so much into your NGO, into the cause that you care about. And maybe you have tried approaching companies by yourself, you've tried to fundraise, you have gone from one place to another, you've even done social media campaign that you paid a lot of money to advertise for, and yet there is no tangible funding from anyone. Now you begin to worry that in 5 years' time, or 3 years' time, or 2 years' time, there will be more children that are out of school, more unemployed youth who will go into committing crimes out of the desperation to survive due to the lack of skills and opportunity to work or to learn and go to school. You believe whatever issues you're trying to solve will get worse and worse, and you're unable to make a difference, and your NGO will not be able to achieve the mission and the purpose for which it exists for. Don't worry. Here in this video, I'm going to show you what you need to do so that you can acquire the funding that you need for your NGO to have the impact you want it to have. I will go over the crux of the matter. Why is it that you're not getting the fundings that you need? I will talk about the things you're doing wrong, and some of these things are listed on this outline. Then I'll tell you 3 key approaches to winning grants. And by the time you finish with this video, you will be able to apply these things and you'll be on your way to funding. So let's get started. First, like I mentioned, I'll go over what you've been doing that has not worked. You need the funding, but yet you cannot get the funding. You've become frustrated, you're tired, and you feel like giving up. Just wait a minute. This is why this video was created for you. The main reason why your approach have not worked so far is because, one, you use what I like to consider a one-size-fits-all approach. In this approach, the truth is this: if there are 100 funding organizations, each of these organizations will have their own unique approach to funding. The reality is, even if they have 5 opportunities to fund some programs and projects, and 20 people apply for it, if only two people follow the processes they require, even if they have 5 funding opportunity, they will only give to those 2 people, and the rest will not be given out. So they will rather keep the other 3 funding opportunities till another cycle when the right kind of people will apply for it and do the right things. Just because you get rejected does not mean that the funding is not there. It means you use the wrong funding approach. What tends to happen is that we have organizations who have funding available but are constantly rejecting funding requests because the NGO requesting for the funding are using another funder's method to request for funding from this particular funding organization. So you keep applying to different places, you keep getting rejected, and this is the main reason why you have not had the funding success. It is because you think every funding organization wants the same thing, and this is not true. You don't know what each organization wants, so you use a one-size-fits-all approach. Maybe because one of your friends applied for a particular grant and they got the funding, you think that, oh, I can do the same thing. And in this case, it's not true. The second approach that is wrong that most nonprofit organizations or NGO use is to apply to the wrong organization for funding. The truth is that no matter how well you plead or write a great grant application, you will not be funded because you are not the kind of organization the funder need. Different funding organizations fund different things. So you need to know, first of all, where to channel your energy and ensure you channel it to the right funders. What happens is sometimes an NGO will Google and find a grant opportunity and say, oh, they are going to give us $10,000 or 1 million naira. So let me quickly apply. And by applying and putting a lot of time and effort into it, without checking to make sure that your mission and your purpose and your objective matches up with the same that the funder wants to focus on, you waste a lot of time and energy, and yet you still do not get funded. If you keep applying to the wrong organization for funding, you will get rejection because you're not the type of NGO they want to fund. The third thing that you're doing wrong is lack of proper documentation. Proper documentation means different things to different funders, and so it is key that beyond identifying the right funders, different funders have different standards in place, and so knowing the right documentation that you need before you apply for a grant is very key. Some of these documents might be ensuring that, number one, you have your registration intact. So are you legally registered in the city or states that you're working in? 2, do you have the proper financial statement to back it up? Are your financial statements up to date? Are you ensuring that you keep a track record of your expenses and your incomes that are coming in through maybe your own personal funding for your NGO or through donations that you receive from other people and individuals around you? The fourth thing that you might be doing wrong is lack of proper processes. For different funding organizations, they have just different expectations in terms of the processes that an NGO has to put in place. For some funders, they might require that you have a board of director list with the exact role and responsibility of what your board does for your NGO. So it's important to ensure that you have the right kind of board of directors who are available locally and who take an active role in your organization's operation. Another process that you need to put in place is ensuring that the funding that you've gotten in the past are not going to your own personal account. You need to ensure that you have set up the proper and the right banking system for your NGO. Funds should not be going into your own personal account. When this occurs, sometimes some funders are hesitant to fund you because they're worried that you might mix the organization's money with your own personal money, and they cannot account for you using the money that comes in for the organization for the right things that are supposed to be done for the organization. So that's why it's really key and important that you create a separate banking account for your organization as well. Another thing that is important and necessary is that you have a strategic plan in place. So beyond getting funding from this particular funder, what other things are you planning to do? What are your goals in the next 2 years, in the next 3 years, in the next 5 years? So some funders want to see a strategic plan. How are you planning to grow the organization? How are you planning to expand on your impact and the difference you're making in your community or society? So these are the top 4 things that would not get you funded. So there are better approaches, which I'll consider winning approaches for you to get better results. I will be sharing these winning approaches with you. There are 3 things to ensure that you can get funded. Number 1, the first approach is applying to perfect fit funders. What do I mean by this? This is when you find the funders who care about the same cause that you care about, who cares about the same population of interest that your NGO works for, and whose mission and vision and goal for the society matches up with your own vision and values. This is the first thing that you need to do. Finding the right and the perfect fit funders. That is what is important. You cannot just, like I said before, apply one size fits all. You need to do the research to ensure you find the perfect fit funders that matches up with your organization's goals and mission. The second thing you need to do is have the right documentation. So you need to do a document audit to ensure that you have what is needed. And so it's so important to have the right documentation and ensure that all these things are properly ready and available when you do your document audit. I would suggest that you write down a checklist once you identify the right funder, and then look through and see what are the documents that will be required of my organization, and write those. Before you write the grant, this is important. Check to make sure you have all the documents they need in order for them to consider your grant application. The third winning approach is to have the right processes in place. I cannot emphasize this. Having the right processes in place will help you win grant faster and increase your chance of getting funded. And so, like I discussed before, these right processes can include having a strategic plan in place. When was the last time you even checked your strategic plan, if you have ever made one before? If you don't have one, this is the right time to start creating that and developing it and working with it. And if you had one and you've never used it and you just left it on a desk, or you left it in one of the storage disks that you have, you need to bring it up, point it out, and start thinking, are we doing exactly what we said we were going to do in this strategic plan? Because most funders might ask for this and say, can you show us how you've used the strategic plan in your programming, in your project, and how are you doing on the goals and things that you set that you hope to achieve? And finally, the fourth winning approach is having a personalized grant application to every funder you apply for funding for. Make sure you do not send generic applications. You need to understand what the funder is looking for and give them exactly what they want. You have limited time, you have limited opportunity and limited money to apply for grant. So you want to make sure you identify the funder who are more inclined to give you the funding that you need. You want to make sure that you're sending the right kind of grant application to the right funders who are more likely to fund you because your mission and your vision aligns with their own vision and their mission. Rather than do generic applications and apply to generic funders, you have more chances with funding organizations that I like to call specialist funders. These are organizations who fund things that align with your own organization's core mission, objectives, and goals. Let me ask you a question. Would you rather apply to 100 funders and get one grant successful, or will you rather apply to 5 different funders and get 3 successful grant application? Which will you rather choose? Let me share some example with some people that I've worked with in the past. So let's say there's an NGO that is called ABCD NGO, and this funder tried to apply to different grant organizations using the wrong approach. She has been applying for the past 8 months, and she kept getting rejection letter over and over and over again. The last application she did before she met me and we worked together, she sent in the application, did her best, poured her heart out, spent hours and hours crafting the perfect grant application. But because she did not attach the right documentation, she did not get the funding. A month after she submitted, while she was eager and waiting to hear that she won the grant, the contact person from the organization contacted her and told her that, sorry, we are not going to fund your organization because you only attached the wrong document. The document that we asked for, a cover form where you should include the name of the contact person and the email address of the contact person we can call and talk to about your proposal, was not in your application, and this is the only reason why we are not going to fund you. So you can see why it's so key and important to have the right documentation in place and make a checklist before you even start writing the grant application. Another client that I worked with, let's call her Sarah, she has been applying for a year to different organizations, sending in at least 5 to 10 grant proposal per month, and she kept getting denials. Working with me, she received over 600,000 naira for her NGO within 90 days, and that happened because she chose to work with me. We sat down in a strategic call and went over what our organization is doing currently, what are their core visions and what are their core missions, and then we did a document audit to ensure that she had the right kind of documents and processes in place, and then we were able to find perfect fit funders who were more inclined to fund the kind of work that she did, and within 90 days she won over 600,000 naira of grant funding, and now Sarah and our organization are doing good and they are creating more impact and making a difference in the world. The key thing as I wind up is having, like I said, the right approaches. As long as you have these 4 things in place, like I said, ensure you are only applying to the perfect fit funder, you have the right documentation in place, you have the right processes, and you send out personalized grant applications, you will see that your results will be different, and you'll be able to attract the funding you need, and you'll be able to make the difference you want to make and move forward the causes that are important to you and your NGO. So I hope this was useful for you. If yes, make sure that you remember these key things when you're applying for a grant funding. Like I said, when you apply these winning approaches, you will tend to see a trend of successful grant application. From 0 naira, you will get 100,000 naira to 200,000 to 300,000 to 400,000 to a million and much more. So this is possible. This can be you and your NGO. This can be you receiving the funding you need to keep making a difference and transforming life for good. But you need to apply these winning approaches. So I hope this was helpful for you. If you found this helpful, go ahead and leave a comment for me below. I look forward to being a part of your success story. If you ever need help, you can reach out to me. I have over 6 years of experience with grant writing. Have won more than $650,000 worth of funding for various organizations across the US. And I will be more than happy to connect with you and help you reach your funding goals. I look forward to hearing from you.